Somewhere in the French countryside, buried beneath decades of soil and silence, lies the answer to one of the automotive world's greatest mysteries. In the summer of 1938, a masterpiece rolled out of the Bugatti factory in Molsheim, Alsace. It was called the Type 57 SC Atlantic. 4 were built. 3 survive today, worth over $40 million each. But the 4th, the most important one, the one owned by Jean Bugatti himself, the prodigal son of automotive royalty, vanished. Not stolen, not crashed, not destroyed. Hidden. This is the story of La Voiture Noire, the black car. A machine so beautiful, so advanced, so valuable that its creator chose to bury it rather than let it fall into the hands of the Third Reich. But when the war ended and the dust settled, no one could remember where. For over 80 years, treasure hunters, historians, and billionaire collectors have searched for this ghost. Some say it's in a sealed mine shaft. Others believe it was melted down for scrap. And a few think it's still out there, waiting in the darkness, perfectly preserved, worth over $100 million. This is the story of the most valuable lost car in history. But to understand how it disappeared, we need to understand why it was created, and why one man loved it enough to hide it from the world. Welcome to the Ghost Garage. To understand the Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic, you must first understand the man who created it. And to understand him, you need to know his father. Ettore Bugatti, born in Milan in 1881. An artist, an engineer, a visionary who believed that automobiles should not just be fast, they should be sculptures. "Nothing is too beautiful, nothing is too expensive," he famously said, and he meant it. By the 1920s, Bugatti was dominating European racing. The Type 35 won over 1,000 races. The factory in Molsheim, a picturesque Alsatian town near the German border, became a cathedral of speed. But Ettore's greatest creation wasn't a car. It was his son, Jean. Jean Bugatti was born in 1909, and from childhood he breathed gasoline and genius. While other boys played with toys, Jean sketched aerodynamic curves. By age 17, he was already working in the factory, not as a prince coasting on his father's name, but as a designer with a vision even more radical than Ettore's. Where Ettore built race cars, Jean dreamed of rolling art. In 1934, at just 25 years old, he designed the Type 57, a grand touring car that married speed with elegance. But Jean wasn't satisfied. He wanted to create something the world had never seen. And in 1936, he did. The Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic. Imagine, if you will, a car that looks like it's moving even when it's standing still. The Atlantic's body was hand-formed from electron, a lightweight magnesium alloy so flammable that it couldn't be welded. Instead, Jean riveted the panels together, creating a raised dorsal seam that ran down the center of the car like a spine. It wasn't just functional, it was poetry. The fenders flowed like water. The teardrop cabin was inspired by aeronautics. The curves were so radical that even today, 90 years later, the Atlantic looks like it comes from the future. Under the hood, a 3.3-liter straight-8 engine with a Roots-type supercharger. The SC stood for surcompressé, or supercharged. It produced 200 horsepower, enough to push the Atlantic to speeds over 120 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest road cars of the 1930s. But Jean didn't build it to sell. Oh, a few were made for extraordinarily wealthy clients. A British banker named Nathaniel Mayer Victor Rothschild bought one. An American named Richard Pope commissioned another. But the 4th Atlantic, finished in 1938, painted in deep obsidian black with a black leather interior, Jean kept for himself. This was La Voiture Noire, the black car, Jean's personal masterpiece. He drove it to design meetings. He raced it on country roads. He was photographed in it at the Grand Prix events, the Bugatti Air in his rolling manifesto. Those who saw it said it didn't just turn heads, it stopped time. One journalist wrote in 1938, "To see the Atlantic is to witness the future of motion. Bugatti has not built a car, he has built a dream with wheels." But dreams, as we know, can become nightmares. In 1938, the same year Jean completed La Voiture Noire, Adolf Hitler annexed Austria. The world was sliding toward war, and Molsheim, the jewel of Alsace where the Bugatti factory stood, sat fewer than 2 miles from the German border. Jean Bugatti, the artist, the dreamer, the engineer, was about to become a man in hiding. August 1939. The summer air in Molsheim was thick with fear. For 2 decades, the Bugatti factory had been a sanctuary of precision and beauty. But now, with the Nazi war machine churning just across the Rhine, Ettore and Jean Bugatti faced a terrible reality. Their factory, their life's work, their cars, everything was in the path of the coming invasion. On September 1st, 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. 2 days later, France and Britain declared war on Germany. And Jean Bugatti, standing in the factory his father built, knew exactly what was coming. Alsace wasn't just near Germany. Historically, it was German territory until France reclaimed it after World War I. Hitler wanted it back, and when the Wehrmacht rolled west, Molsheim would be among the first towns to fall. Jean had a choice to make, and it wasn't about himself. It was about the car. Now, you might ask, why would anyone risk their life for a car? But La Voiture Noire wasn't just a car. It was the pinnacle of Jean's artistry. It was irreplaceable. And more than that, it was a symbol. The Nazis were already looting art, confiscating Jewish property, seizing anything of cultural value for the glory of the Reich. Jean knew that if the Wehrmacht captured his Atlantic, it would end up in one of 2 places: Hermann Göring's private collection or melted down for the war effort. The magnesium body alone would be valuable for aircraft production. He couldn't let that happen. In the late summer of 1939, as France mobilized for war, Jean Bugatti made a decision. He would hide La Voiture Noire. Not in a garage, not in a warehouse, somewhere the Nazis would never find it. He would bury it. Now, here's where the story enters the fog of history. We don't have photographs of what happened next. We don't have a diary entry or a signed document or a map with a big red X. What we have are whispers, testimonies from workers, second-hand accounts, fragments of memory from people who are now long dead. But the most consistent account goes like this. On a moonless night in late August or early September 1939, Jean Bugatti gathered a small team of his most trusted workers, no more than 3 or 4 men. They were sworn to secrecy. Jean told them what they were about to do could save a piece of history, but if word got out, they could all be killed. Under cover of darkness, La Voiture Noire was driven out of the factory. Not far, maybe a few miles, maybe less. Some accounts say Jean drove it himself one last time, the supercharged engine purring through the Alsatian countryside. They reached a location Jean had scouted in advance. Accounts vary. Some say it was a forest clearing, others say it was near a riverbank. One worker, decades later, claimed it was in the hills overlooking the factory, in a place Jean loved as a child. They dug. By hand, over hours, they excavated a pit large enough to hold the Atlantic. Jean had prepared for this. The car was coated in protective grease, the fuel was drained, the interior was sealed with tarpaulins. They treated it like a pharaoh's treasure, because that's what it was. And then, as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, they buried it. They covered the pit, they scattered leaves and branches, they made it look like untouched ground. And then, Jean Bugatti did something that would haunt history for the next 80 years. He told his workers to forget where they'd been. To protect the car's location from torture, from interrogation, from loose lips, Jean decided that the secret would stay with him, and him alone. He would memorize the location, and when the war was over, when France was free, he would return. 3 weeks later, Jean Bugatti left Molsheim. As the German army advanced, the Bugatti family fled south into the unoccupied zone of France. The factory was seized. Nazi officers moved into Ettores Villa. The production lines that once built Type 35s and Atlantics were repurposed to repair Wehrmacht vehicles. And, somewhere, beneath the soil, La Voiture Noire waited in the dark. But Jean Bugatti never came back. On August 11, 1939, just weeks after hiding the Atlantic, Jean was testing a Bugatti Type 57 tank, a racing variant, on a road near the factory. He was driving at speed, focused, precise, as always. A cyclist, riding in the wrong direction, appeared suddenly around a blind corner. Jean swerved, the car left the road. The crash was catastrophic. Jean Bugatti, the most gifted automotive designer of his generation, died at the scene. He was 30 years old. He never told anyone where he'd buried La Voiture Noire. May 8, 1945, victory in Europe. The Nazis surrendered. The war was over. And, in the ruins of Alsace, the Bugatti family returned to Molsheim. Ettore Bugatti was a broken man. His son was dead, his factory had been gutted, many of his cars had been destroyed or stolen, but he held onto one hope. The Atlantic, Jean's masterpiece. It was still out there, somewhere.
Ettore organized search parties. He questioned the few workers who'd stayed in Molsheim during the occupation. Did Jean tell you anything? A location? A landmark? A clue? But no one knew. Or if they did, they'd forgotten. Or they died in the war. The problem was simple and maddening. The area around Molsheim is vast. Dense forests, rolling hills, farmland, vineyards. Thousands of acres where a car could be buried. Without a map, without a witness, it was like searching for a needle in a haystack the size of a country. And remember, this was 1945. No ground-penetrating radar, no satellite imaging, no drones. Just shovels, hope, and guesswork. Ettore Bugatti searched until his death in 1947. He never found it. The factory passed to new hands. The Bugatti name faded. Production stopped in the 1950s, and La Voiture Noire became a legend. But legends attract hunters. In the decades that followed, the search for La Voiture Noire became an obsession for a certain type of person, the automotive archaeologist. Men, and a few women, who believed that somewhere in France, a $100 million piece of art was waiting to be unearthed. They searched barns, they drained ponds, they explored caves and abandoned mines. In 1965, a French historian claimed he'd found evidence that the Atlantic was hidden in a sealed cellar beneath a demolished chateau. They excavated. They found nothing. In 1978, a team of British collectors used dowsing rods, yes, dowsing rods, to search the hills near Molsheim. They dug 7 holes. Nothing. And then there were the theories. Over the years, as the physical searches failed, alternative explanations began to emerge. If the car wasn't buried, then where was it? Theory 1, the salvage theory. This is the heartbreaker. According to this theory, La Voiture Noire was never successfully hidden. Instead, sometime during or shortly after the war, it was discovered, either by retreating German forces, desperate French civilians, or post-war scavengers, and stripped for parts. Remember, the body was made of electron, a magnesium alloy. In wartime, magnesium was worth its weight in gold. It was used in incendiary bombs, aircraft parts, flares. A single Atlantic body could yield enough magnesium for a dozen military applications. Evidence for this theory? After the war, several Bugatti parts, engines, wheels, chassis components, appeared on the black market in France and Germany. Some researchers believe these parts came from La Voiture Noire. In 1953, a Type 57 engine block matching the serial number range of the Atlantic was found in a scrapyard in Strasbourg, just 30 miles from Molsheim. Was it from La Voiture Noire? No one could prove it, but the timing and location were suspicious. Evidence against? If the car had been found and scrapped, why keep it a secret? Salvage operations were legal after the war. Someone would have boasted, someone would have documented it. And yet, silence. No photographs, no records, no confessions. Still, this theory haunts collectors, because if it's true, the search is over. The Atlantic is gone forever, melted into bombs and bullets, scattered across Europe as shrapnel. Theory 2, the hidden collection theory. This one's darker, and it involves Nazis. We know the Third Reich had a taste for automotive trophies. Hermann Göring, Hitler's second-in-command and a notorious car enthusiast, amassed a personal collection of over 50 luxury and racing vehicles, many stolen from occupied territories. According to this theory, German forces did find La Voiture Noire during the occupation of Molsheim. But instead of scrapping it, a high-ranking officer, possibly Göring himself, recognized its value and had it secretly transported to Germany. Toward the end of the war, as the Allies closed in, the Nazis hid thousands of stolen artifacts in secret locations, salt mines, caves, sealed bunkers. Some were found, many were not. In 1981, a researcher named Claude Rouget claimed he'd found evidence in declassified Gestapo documents of a special automotive asset, Bugatti origin, relocated to secure Alpine facility 1944. Was this La Voiture Noire? Rouget believed so. He spent years searching abandoned bunkers in Austria and Bavaria. He found rare motorcycles, a few damaged race cars, but no Atlantic. Evidence 4? The Nazis were in Molsheim. They did confiscate Bugatti property, and we know they hid automotive treasures in remote locations. Evidence against? If the car had been taken to Germany, why wasn't it recovered after the war? The Allies cataloged thousands of stolen items. A Bugatti Atlantic would have been impossible to miss. And Göring's collection was thoroughly documented after his capture. No Atlantic was listed. Still, this theory refuses to die. Because deep in the Alps, in sealed mines and forgotten tunnels, there are still secrets waiting to be found. Theory 3, the family secret.
Now, this is where things get uncomfortable. What if the car was never lost at all? According to this theory, La Voiture Noire was recovered shortly after the war, not by the Nazis, not by scavengers, but by the Bugatti family themselves. And they chose to keep it a secret. Why would they do that? Several reasons have been proposed. 1. Taxes and inheritance. In post-war France, estate taxes were brutal. If the Bugatti family declared ownership of a priceless car, the government would seize it or demand exorbitant payments. Solution? Pretend it's lost. 2. Insurance fraud. Some researchers believe the Atlantic was insured before the war. If the family claimed it was lost or destroyed, they could collect the payout and still keep the car. 3. Preservation. If the car's location became public, treasure hunters, governments, and collectors would descend like vultures. The only way to protect it was to bury it deeper in secrecy. Evidence 4. In 1962, a former Bugatti factory worker named Henri Malartré gave an interview to a French automotive magazine. He claimed that in the early 1950s, he was approached by a member of the Bugatti family and asked to forget what he saw in the woods in '39. Malartré refused to elaborate, saying only, "Some things are meant to stay hidden." In 1985, an anonymous buyer purchased a large parcel of forested land near Molsheim. The sale was handled through offshore shell companies. The land was fenced off. No construction ever took place. Who owns it? To this day, no one knows. Evidence against. The Bugatti family, for the most part, has denied any knowledge of the car's location. When Bugatti was revived as a brand in the 1990s under Volkswagen, the new owners publicly stated they'd searched the family archives and found no evidence the Atlantic had been recovered. But of course, they would say that, wouldn't they? And then there are the sightings. Over the decades, there have been sporadic reports, unverified, tantalizing, maddening, of La Voiture Noire being seen. In 1971, a truck driver in Lyon claimed he saw a black, riveted Bugatti being loaded onto a transport trailer in the middle of the night. He reported it to police. They investigated. The trailer was gone.
In 1989, a collector in Switzerland received an anonymous letter offering to sell him the Bugatti the world forgot for 10 million Swiss francs. He arranged a meeting. No one showed up. In 2006, a construction crew working near Molsheim unearthed what they described as a large car-shaped object wrapped in tarps buried in the foundation of an old building. They reported it to local authorities. By the time inspectors arrived, the site had been filled in. The construction company denied everything. False alarms, hoaxes, or glimpses of a ghost that refuses to stay buried. No one knows. No one knows. Let's talk about money. In 2010, one of the 3 surviving Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantics, the one originally owned by Dr. Peter Williamson and later by fashion designer Ralph Lauren, was privately valued at over $40 million. In 2018, that same car was offered for sale. The asking price? $100 million. It didn't sell, not because the price was too high, but because the buyer wanted more. The Atlantic isn't just a car, it's liquid art. It's a piece of pre-war Europe, a fragment of a world that no longer exists. Only 3 are known to survive. Museums and collectors would kill for a 4th. Which brings us to La Voiture Noire. If Jean Bugatti's personal Atlantic were found today, in any condition, even rusted and incomplete, it would be the most valuable automotive discovery in history. And that's a conservative estimate. In 2019, Bugatti itself acknowledged the legend. To celebrate the brand's 110th anniversary, they built a modern tribute car, a one-off hypercar called La Voiture Noire, a $19 million 1,500 horsepower homage to the lost Atlantic. It sold immediately. The buyer, anonymous. But it wasn't the original, and everyone knew it. Because the real Voiture Noire, the one Jean Bugatti built with his own hands, is still out there. And people are still looking. In 2003, a French engineer named Alain Grandes launched Project Atlantic, a privately funded effort to locate the car using ground-penetrating radar and historical land surveys. Over 5 years, his team scanned over 200 square kilometers around Molsheim. They found dozens of anomalies, buried metal, car-sized objects, but every time they dug, it was farm equipment, old trucks, scrap. Grandes gave up in 2008, saying, "Either the car is deeper than we can scan, or it's not where we think it is, or it's gone." But he left the door open. I don't believe it was destroyed. Jean Bugatti was too smart, too careful. It's out there. We're just not asking the right question. What's the right question? Maybe it's not where is the car, but who moved it? In 2015, a researcher named Isabelle Eberhardt uncovered something strange in the Bugatti factory archives, a payroll ledger from September 1939, just after Jean Bugatti's death. 3 workers were paid unusually large sums, equivalent to 6 months' salary, for special project work. Their names were redacted in later versions of the document, but Eberhardt cross-referenced other records and identified them. 2 of them died during the war, but the third lived until 1994. His name was Michel Préjean, and in 1991, 3 years before his death, he gave a single, cryptic interview to a local Alsatian newspaper. When asked if he knew anything about the missing Atlantic, Préjean smiled and said, "Monsieur Jean was a genius. He knew the war was coming. He knew people would search, so he didn't hide the car where you'd think. He hid it where you'd never look." Where is that? Ask the river. Ask the river. The Ill River runs directly through Molsheim. It's shallow in most places, but there are deeper sections, channels that were used to transport goods before the war. Could Jean Bugatti have sunk La Voiture Noire in the river, sealed it in a watertight container, weighted it down, and submerged it where no one would think to look? It sounds insane, but it's not unprecedented. Dozens of artifacts, cars, motorcycles, even aircraft, have been recovered from European rivers in recent decades, hidden there during the war. In 2009, a team of Dutch divers recovered a 1938 BMW 328 from the Rhine.
It had been deliberately sunk by its owner in 1944 to keep it from the Nazis. Could the same have happened to the Atlantic? In 2017, a French underwater exploration team, inspired by Préjean's words, scanned a section of the Ill River near Molsheim using sonar. They detected a large, car-shaped object embedded in the riverbed, buried under decades of silt. Permits were filed, a recovery operation was planned, but before the dive could happen, the French Ministry of Culture intervened, classifying the site as a potential heritage zone and halting all activity pending further review. The review is still ongoing. To this day, that object remains in the river, untouched, unexplored. Is it La Voiture Noire? Or just another ghost? Somewhere in this landscape, beneath the soil or the water or the shadow of a forgotten building, lies the answer. For over 80 years, the Bugatti Type 57 SC, La Voiture Noire, Jean Bugatti's masterpiece, has been the world's most beautiful mystery. We've walked through the history, we've examined the theories, we've followed the clues into the forests, the rivers, the family vaults, and still, the question remains: where is it? Is it buried in the hills Jean loved as a child, sealed in grease and time, waiting for the right person to finally dig in the right place? Is it at the bottom of the Ill River, encased in silt, a metal coffin holding the ghost of pre-war Europe? Is it locked in a secret collection, hidden by a family that knows its location would bring chaos? Or is it gone? Melted down decades ago, scattered as shrapnel across 1,000 battlefields, its beauty lost to the machinery of war. We may never know, but the search is what keeps the legend alive. Today, the Bugatti brand thrives again. Under Volkswagen's ownership, they build hypercars worth millions, machines that push the boundaries of speed and engineering. But ask any Bugatti enthusiast what they'd rather have, and they'll choose the ghost. Because La Voiture Noire isn't just a car, it's a time capsule, a love letter from a son to his craft, a monument to the idea that beauty is worth saving, even in the face of annihilation. Jean Bugatti died believing his masterpiece would survive, that one day, when the madness ended, someone would find it, restore it, let it breathe again. Maybe that day is still coming. But here's the thing about mysteries like this. They don't end with me. They end with you. We've laid out the evidence, we've shown you the theories, we've taken you as deep into a labyrinth as history allows. But now, it's your turn. What do you think happened to La Voiture Noire? Was it scrapped, melted down in the chaos of war, its beauty sacrificed for bullets and bombs? Was it taken by the Nazis, hidden in a sealed Alpine bunker, waiting in the dark alongside stolen Rembrandts and looted gold? Was it recovered by the Bugatti family, locked away in secret, too valuable to reveal, too dangerous to sell? Or is it still out there, buried in the forest, submerged in the river, sleeping under 80 years of silence, waiting for the right person to ask the right question? Leave your theory in the comments below. Tell us what you believe. Tell us where you'd search, because here, in the Ghost Garage, you're part of the investigation.
And if you love diving deep into the greatest automotive mysteries the world has tried to forget, then subscribe to the Ghost Garage and hit that notification bell. Because every week, we're pulling back the dust covers on the cars that vanished, the legends that refuse to die, and the stories that deserve to be remembered. We investigate the stories the world forgot. And next week, we're going even darker. Next week on the Ghost Garage, we investigate the legend of the most cursed car in history, James Dean's Porsche 550 Spyder, Little Bastard, the car that killed a Hollywood icon and then, supposedly, killed everyone who touched it. They say it disappeared in 1960, but the truth is so much stranger. See you in the garage.